The winter air slapped against my cheeks as I hurried down the crowded street. My daughter Emma's small hand clutched tightly in mine. The scent of coffee from the upscale cafe had been calling my name for weeks. But I'd always walked past, knowing the prices would swallow what little remained of my paycheck. Today was different. Today was Emma's 5th birthday, and I'd promised her a special treat. A real hot chocolate with whipped cream and sprinkles, not the instant powder packets we normally stirred into lukewarm tap water at our cramped apartment. "Mommy, my fingers are cold," Emma whispered, her breath forming small clouds in the January air. "Just a few more steps, birthday girl." I forced a smile, ignoring the hole in my left boot that had been letting in slush all morning. 3 more shifts at the diner, and maybe I could afford a new pair. For now, an extra sock would have to do. The cafe door swung open, releasing a wave of warmth and the rich aroma of freshly ground beans. The space was packed with well-dressed professionals tapping away on sleek laptops or engaged in hushed conversations. My worn coat and Emma's hand-me-down jacket immediately felt out of place amid cashmere sweaters and designer bags. "It's so pretty," Emma gasped, her eyes wide as she took in the glittering pendant lights and polished hardwood floors. I scanned the room for an empty table, my heart sinking at the sight of the packed cafe. Of course it would be full. Even the weather seemed determined to make my daughter's birthday more difficult than necessary. Just as I was about to suggest we try somewhere else, I spotted a small table in the corner with only one occupant, a man in a dark suit, his back to the entrance. "Come on," I whispered to Emma, making our way through the maze of tables. As we approached, I noticed how everyone seemed to glance nervously at the corner before quickly averting their eyes. The man sat alone at a table for 4, several papers spread before him. Though he wasn't looking at them, his focus was on the window beside him, watching the street with an intensity that made me hesitate. He must have sensed our approach because his head turned slightly, just enough for me to catch a glimpse of his profile. Sharp jawline, dark hair neatly trimmed at the sides, and the faintest shadow of stubble. Even from this partial view, there was something magnetic about him. Something that made my steps falter. Emma tugged at my hand. "Mommy, can we sit down? My legs are tired." The cafe had gone strangely quiet, or perhaps that was just my imagination. I drew in a deep breath, reminding myself that I was here for my daughter. I was a mother before anything else. "Excuse me," I said, my voice softer than I'd intended. "Can I sit here? Everywhere else is full, and it's my daughter's birthday." He turned then, fully facing us, and I nearly took a step back. His eyes were the color of thunderclouds, a deep, stormy gray that seemed to see right through me. He wore a black suit that screamed expensive, with a crisp white shirt opened at the collar. No tie. A heavy watch glinted on his wrist as he raised his hand to gesture to someone across the room. I followed his gaze to see a broad-shouldered man by the door give a slight nod before returning to scanning the cafe with watchful eyes. "Only if you stay with me," the man said, his voice a low rumble that sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. "Pardon?" "The table." His lips curved into what might have been a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You can sit here only if you stay and have coffee with me. Both of you." Emma was already climbing onto one of the empty chairs before I could respond. "I'm having hot chocolate, not coffee," she announced, peeling off her mittens. "It's my birthday. I'm 5. His expression softened almost imperceptibly at my daughter's words. 5 is an important age," he said, closing the folder in front of him with a deliberate motion. "What's your name?" "Emma Rose Carter," my daughter replied with the pride of someone stating their royal lineage. "And this is my mommy, Lily." I hadn't intended to share our names with a stranger, especially not one who radiated such dangerous energy, yet there was something in the way he looked at Emma. Not dismissively as most adults did, but with genuine attention, that made me hesitate to scold her. "Adrian," he offered in return, without a last name. "Please, sit down properly, Lily." The command in his tone had me lowering into the chair before I realized what I was doing. "We don't want to intrude," I said, helping Emma remove her coat. "We just need a place to sit for a few minutes while she enjoys her birthday treat." A waitress appeared at our table, her hands trembling slightly as she set down a small tray with an espresso for Adrian. "Sir?" she murmured, clearly avoiding eye contact. They'll be joining me, Adrian said. Not a request, but a statement. The little one wants hot chocolate with... He glanced at Emma questioningly. Whipped cream and rainbow sprinkles, she supplied happily. And a cookie, please. Can I have a cookie, Mommy? I reached for my purse, mentally calculating if I could afford to add a cookie to our splurge. Just the hot chocolate. She'll have the chocolate chip cookie as well, Adrian interrupted. And her mother will have... He paused, those storm-gray eyes studying me with unsettling intensity. Just a regular coffee is fine, I said quickly. A hazelnut latte, he corrected. And bring a selection of pastries. It's a celebration after all. The waitress nodded and hurried away before I could protest. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. That's very generous, but unnecessary. We can pay for our own drinks. Adrian's expression remained impassive. Consider it a birthday gift. We don't accept gifts from strangers, I said firmly. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Then perhaps we should get to know each other, Lily Carter. The way he said my name, my full name, which I hadn't given him, sent a chill through me. The cafe suddenly felt too warm, too small, as though the walls were closing in. Outside, I noticed a sleek black car with tinted windows idling by the curb, its engine running despite the no parking signs. How did you know my last name? My mouth had gone dry. Adrian's smile was razor thin. You look like someone I've been waiting to meet. Before I could respond, Emma gasped with delight as the waitress returned, setting down a mug overflowing with whipped cream and colorful sprinkles. The cookie beside it was the size of my palm. Thank you, Emma beamed, chocolate already smudging her lips after the first eager sip. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug placed before me, using it as an anchor. What do you do, Adrian? I asked, trying to regain some control of the situation. I solve problems, he replied smoothly. And sometimes I create them. His phone vibrated on the table. He glanced at it briefly before silencing it. You work at the diner on Kingston Street. Night shifts primarily. You're raising Emma alone. My blood turned to ice. These weren't guesses or observations. This was information he shouldn't have. I instinctively reached for Emma's hand. Who are you? I whispered. Someone who can help you, Lily. He leaned forward, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and subtle, with notes of cedar and amber. Your ex-husband, David, owes me a significant amount of money. Did you know that? The mention of David's name made my stomach clench. I hadn't seen him in over 3 years. Not since he'd disappeared one night with our rent money and what little savings we had. I haven't spoken to David since Emma was a toddler, I said carefully. Whatever he owes you has nothing to do with us. Adrian's eyes never left mine as he took a sip of his espresso. On the contrary, it has everything to do with you. Emma tugged at my sleeve, oblivious to the tension crackling between us. Mommy, can I have another cookie? The man said it's okay. Adrian gestured to the waitress again without looking away from me. Another cookie for the birthday girl. His voice softened when addressing Emma, and for a brief moment, I glimpsed something almost gentle beneath his intimidating exterior. I don't understand what you want from me, I said once the waitress had moved away. I don't have any money. I barely make enough to cover rent and childcare. I'm aware of your financial situation. Adrian's tone was matter-of-fact. 3 months behind on rent, no health insurance, working 2 jobs and still drowning in debt that isn't even yours. My cheeks burned with humiliation. You've been watching me, protecting my interests, he corrected. David disappeared with something that belongs to me, more valuable than money. A cold dread settled in my chest. What does that have to do with Emma and me? David called me last week, Adrian said, sliding his phone across the table. On the screen was a text message from an unknown number. She has what you're looking for. Lily knows where it is, even if she doesn't realize it. My hands trembled as I pushed the phone back toward him. This is insane. I haven't heard from David in years. I don't have anything of yours. I believe you, Adrian said, surprising me. But David is desperate, and desperate men tell convenient lies. He glanced at Emma, who was happily decorating her napkin with sprinkles that had fallen from her hot chocolate. He knows I would never harm a child, or a mother trying to protect her child, so he's using you as a shield. The cafe seemed to fade away as I processed his words. This stranger knew where I worked, where I lived. He knew about my financial struggles and my connection to David, and he believed I had something that belonged to him, something valuable enough that he'd been waiting for me. "What happens now?" I asked, hating how weak my voice sounded. Adrian's eyes softened slightly. "Now you and Emma finish your drinks, you celebrate her birthday, and then I take you both home. I'm not going anywhere with you," I said, even as a part of me wondered if I actually had a choice. "You misunderstand, Lily." Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. "David knows where you live. If he's desperate enough to drag you into this, he's desperate enough to come for you himself. Or to send someone else who won't be as considerate as I am." Emma chose that moment to look up. Chocolate smeared across her cheek. "Mommy, can the nice man come to our house? I want to show him my birthday presents." Adrian's expression remained neutral, but I caught a flicker of something in his eyes. Satisfaction, perhaps. "That's a wonderful idea, Emma. I'd love to see your presents." I opened my mouth to refuse, to grab Emma and run, but the cafe door swung open with a violent crash. A man staggered in, wild-eyed and disheveled. His gaze swept the room before landing on our table. Even after 3 years, I would recognize David anywhere. Adrian didn't turn around, but his posture changed subtly. "It seems we're out of time for pleasantries," he murmured, reaching inside his jacket. Before I could react, the man by the door, Adrian's watchful companion, intercepted David, gripping his arm with punishing force. The other cafe patrons quickly gathered their belongings, understanding instinctively that something dangerous was unfolding. "Mommy?" Emma's voice trembled, her earlier happiness evaporating as she sensed the tension. "What's happening?" Adrian stood in one fluid motion, positioning himself between our table and the commotion by the door. "Time to go, Lily," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Take Emma and follow Marco." He nodded toward a third man I hadn't noticed before, now standing by the cafe's back entrance. "Why should I trust you?" I demanded, even as I helped Emma into her coat. Adrian's expression darkened as he watched David being dragged outside by his associate. "Because right now, I'm the only one who can keep you both safe." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "And because David wasn't lying about one thing, you do have something that belongs to me, you just don't know it yet." With Emma clutched to my side, I followed Marco through the kitchen and out into the alley behind the cafe, leaving behind the warmth and momentary peace we'd found. In the distance, I heard shouting, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Emma buried her face against my coat. "Where are we going?" I asked Marco, who remained silent as he guided us toward a second black car idling at the end of the alley. "Somewhere safe," came Adrian's voice behind me, causing me to jump. He'd appeared silently, straightening his cuffs as though he'd merely stepped out for air rather than confronted my ex-husband. "I promise no harm will come to either of you under my protection." As Marco opened the car door, Emma looked up at Adrian with wide, confused eyes. "Is my birthday ruined?" Something almost like remorse crossed Adrian's features. He crouched down to Emma's level, his movement surprisingly gentle for someone who radiated such danger. "No, little one. Your birthday is just beginning. Sometimes the best celebrations happen in unexpected places." I hesitated at the car door, knowing that once I stepped inside, everything would change. "I don't have a choice, do I?" Adrian's storm gray eyes met mine. "We always have choices, Lily, just rarely good ones." He gestured to the seat. "But I'm offering you protection. In return, I need you to trust me, at least until we figure out what David has hidden and where." As the first snowflakes began to fall, I made my choice and stepped into the unknown. Emma's small hand in mine. The car's interior was all black leather and tinted windows, isolating us from the world outside. Emma pressed her face against the glass, her breath fogging the window as she watched the snowflakes dancing in the wind. I sat rigidly beside her, my body tense with fear and uncertainty. Adrian settled across from us, his long legs stretched out in the spacious cabin. The partition between us and the driver was closed, creating an intimate bubble that made my skin prickle with awareness. "Where are you taking us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady for Emma's sake. "My residence," Adrian replied, his eyes never leaving my face. "It's secure. David won't be able to reach you there." And what happens after? I couldn't stop the tremor in my voice. We can't just disappear from our lives. Emma has school. I have work tomorrow. A faint smile touched his lips. All taken care of. Your manager at the diner received a call about a family emergency requiring your absence. As for Emma's school, he glanced at my daughter, who was now tracing patterns in the condensation on the window. Children that age adapt quickly. The casual way he'd inserted himself into our lives sent a chill down my spine. You can't just decide these things for us. I already have. His tone was final, brooking no argument. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek phone, different from the one he'd shown me at the cafe. After tapping out a quick message, he turned his attention back to me. Tell me about the last time you saw David. The memory was a painful one, buried beneath 3 years of struggle and survival. It was a Tuesday night. I came home from my shift to find him packing a bag. He said he had a job opportunity in another city, promised to send for us once he was settled. I laughed bitterly. I believed him. By the time I realized he wasn't coming back, he'd emptied our joint account and maxed out our credit cards. Adrian's expression remained impassive, but I noticed his fingers tightening around the phone. And he never contacted you again? No calls, no messages, nothing. I glanced at Emma, making sure she was still distracted by the window. He didn't even send a birthday card. It's like he forgot he had a daughter, or he was hiding, Adrian suggested. Running from debts. From people like me. The car turned onto a private road, lined with tall pine trees, their branches heavy with snow. In the distance, I could make out the silhouette of a massive house, lights glowing warmly against the darkening sky. What did he take from you? I asked. You said it was more valuable than money. Adrian was silent for a long moment. Information, he finally said. Sensitive information that could destroy many lives if it fell into the wrong hands, including yours and Emma's. The car slowed as we approached a high wrought iron gate. A security camera swiveled to focus on us, and the gate swung open silently. We continued up a winding driveway, the house growing larger with each passing second. This is where you live? Emma asked, her voice filled with awe as she took in the mansion looming before us. Adrian's features softened when he looked at her. One of my homes, yes. The car came to a stop beneath a covered portico. Marco, who had been following in another vehicle, appeared to open our door. The frigid air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine and wood smoke. Welcome to Blackwood Estate, Adrian said, stepping out and extending his hand to help me. I ignored it, climbing out on my own and reaching back for Emma. The house was even more imposing up close, a sprawling stone mansion with tall windows and ivy crawling up the walls. It looked like something out of a Gothic novel, beautiful and forbidding all at once. Mommy, look, it's like a castle, Emma exclaimed, her earlier fear forgotten in the face of childish wonder. A woman appeared in the doorway, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Despite her advanced age, she stood ramrod straight, her sharp eyes taking us in with a single glance. Mrs. Fairchild, Adrian greeted her. Please prepare the East Wing suite for our guests. They'll be staying with us indefinitely. Very good, sir, the woman replied, her accent faintly British. She offered Emma a small smile. I believe I might have some hot cocoa in the kitchen. Would you like some, young lady? Emma looked to me for permission, her eyes pleading. I nodded reluctantly, and she skipped forward to take Mrs. Fairchild's outstretched hand. Don't worry, Adrian said, noticing my anxious expression. Mrs. Fairchild raised me. She's the closest thing to a grandmother Emma will find here. I watched as they disappeared into the house, fighting the urge to run after them. You can't keep us here forever. Not forever, Adrian agreed, placing his hand at the small of my back to guide me inside. Just until I recover what's mine and ensure your safety. The entryway was cavernous, with marble floors and a sweeping staircase. Artwork that probably cost more than what I made in a year adorned the walls. Every surface gleamed with polish and wealth. Your home is beautiful, I said automatically, falling back on the manners my mother had drilled into me. It's just a house. Adrian's voice was dismissive. Come, I'll show you to your rooms, and then we have matters to discuss. Without little ears present. We climbed the staircase in silence, my mind racing with questions and fears. The East Wing suite turned out to be larger than my entire apartment, with a sitting room, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom that featured a tub I could actually stretch out in. Emma's room connects to yours, Adrian explained, pushing open a door to reveal a bedroom that would make any 5-year-old gasp. The walls were a soft lavender, the bed piled high with pillows, and a bookshelf stood stocked with children's titles. You were expecting us, I said accusingly. This room was prepared for a child. Adrian's expression remained neutral. I like to be prepared for contingencies. Mrs. Fairchild will bring Emma up once she's finished in the kitchen. You'll find suitable clothing in the closets for both of you. I crossed my arms, suddenly aware of how shabby my uniform looked in these opulent surroundings. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, Lily. It's practicality. His eyes darkened. Unless you'd prefer to sleep in that uniform and send Emma to bed in her day clothes. The condescension in his tone made my cheeks burn. Why are you doing this? If you believe I don't have whatever David took, why not just let us go home? Adrian stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, because David will come for you, and when he does, I want to be there. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from my face with unexpected gentleness. Besides, you intrigue me, Lily Carter, a woman who has been abandoned, left with nothing, yet still stands tall. I stepped back, uncomfortable with his proximity and the strange flutter his touch had caused. I stand tall for Emma. Everything I do is for her, a mother's devotion. Adrian nodded. One of the few pure things left in this world. He moved toward the door. Rest, change. When you're ready, come downstairs to the study. First door on the left at the bottom of the stairs. We have much to discuss. After he left, I sank onto the edge of the bed, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. The reality of our situation came crashing down. I was in the home of a dangerous man. A man with connections to my ex-husband's criminal activities. A man who believed I possessed something valuable that belonged to him. When Emma bounced into the room 20 minutes later, her lips ringed with chocolate and her eyes bright with excitement, I forced myself to smile. Mrs. Fairchild stood in the doorway, watching us with a knowing expression. This place is amazing, Mommy. Mrs. F showed me the kitchen, and it's bigger than our whole apartment. And she says there's a pool inside the house. Inside. Emma twirled around, her earlier fear completely forgotten. That sounds wonderful, sweetie, I said, helping her out of her coat. Why don't you wash up and change into something comfortable? It's been a big day. Once Emma was settled in her new room, exploring the toys that had been provided, I changed out of my uniform into a simple black dress I found in the closet. It fit perfectly, which only increased my unease. How long had Adrian been watching us to know my size? Your daughter is a delight, Mrs. Fairchild said when I emerged. She has your spirit. Thank you for being kind to her, I replied cautiously. The older woman's expression softened. Mr. Adrian may seem harsh, but he is a man of honor. You and your daughter are safe here, are we? I couldn't keep the doubt from my voice. I don't even know who he is. Mrs. Fairchild's eyes widened slightly. He hasn't told you? When I shook my head, she sighed. That is for him to explain, I suppose. He's waiting for you in the study. I checked on Emma one last time, finding her already dozing amid a pile of stuffed animals. The day's excitement had worn her out. Carefully tucking the blanket around her, I pressed a kiss to her forehead and whispered, "Happy birthday, my brave girl." The hallway was silent as I made my way downstairs, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The study door was ajar, warm light spilling out into the corridor. I hesitated before knocking softly. "Enter," came Adrian's voice from within. The study was a masculine space, with leather-bound books lining the walls and a large desk positioned before a window that would offer views of the grounds in daylight. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace, casting dancing shadows across the room. Adrian stood with his back to me, pouring amber liquid into 2 crystal tumblers. He'd removed his jacket, and the white shirt stretched across his broad shoulders as he moved. Without turning, he said, "Your daughter is settled?" "She's asleep," I replied, remaining by the door. "It's been an overwhelming day for her." He turned then, offering me one of the glasses. "Bourbon. You look like you could use it." I accepted the drink but didn't take a sip. "I need answers, Adrian. Real ones. Who are you? What did David take? And why do you think I have it? Adrian gestured to a leather armchair by the fire. Sit, Lily. This is a conversation best had in comfort. Reluctantly, I perched on the edge of the chair while Adrian took the one opposite. The firelight cast half his face in shadow, making him look both more dangerous and more vulnerable somehow. My name is Adrian Russo, he began, watching me carefully for recognition. Does that mean anything to you? I shook my head slowly. Should it? A wry smile crossed his face. Most people in this city know the Russo name, or at least they know enough to fear it. He took a sip of his bourbon. My family has controlled the eastern seaboard's shipping and import businesses for 3 generations. The implication hung in the air between us. Shipping and import businesses, a polite euphemism for something far more sinister. You're in the Mafia, I said bluntly, my fingers tightening around the untouched glass in my hand. I prefer to think of it as a family enterprise with diverse interests, Adrian replied, his tone almost amused. But yes, the newspapers and police would use that term. My stomach twisted with fear. I was sitting in the home of a crime lord, drinking his bourbon, wearing clothes he had provided, and my daughter was sleeping upstairs, oblivious to the danger we were in. And David? What was he to you? Adrian's expression hardened. David Carter worked for me as an accountant. He had access to sensitive financial information, client lists, transaction records, offshore accounts. 6 months before he left you, he began skimming money, small amounts at first, then larger sums as he grew bolder. I stared into the fire, trying to process this information. David, my college sweetheart, the man who'd sworn to love me forever, had been working for the mob. I had no idea, I whispered. Of course you didn't. Men like David are adept at compartmentalizing their lives. Adrian leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the flames. When my people discovered the discrepancies, David panicked. He copied encrypted files containing all of our financial data, enough information to destroy my organization and put me in prison for several lifetimes. And you think he gave these files to me? I laughed incredulously. David barely told me where he was going for lunch, let alone entrusted me with criminal evidence. Not intentionally, perhaps. Adrian set his glass down on the side table. The night he disappeared, did he give you anything? A gift, a keepsake, anything unusual? I thought back to that night, trying to remember details I'd long suppressed. No. He just left. Said he'd call when he got settled. Nothing for Emma? No birthday present set aside? No special toy? A memory stirred. Something I'd almost forgotten. There was a stuffed rabbit. He left it on Emma's bed with a note saying he was sorry he'd miss her birthday. My throat tightened. She still sleeps with it sometimes. Adrian's eyes sharpened with interest. This rabbit, what does it look like? It's nothing special. Just a gray rabbit with floppy ears and a blue bow. I frowned. You don't think... I need to see it. Adrian stood abruptly. Now. I set my glass down untouched and rose to follow him. Emma's asleep. I'm not waking her for this. Then we'll have to be quiet, he replied, already striding toward the door. We ascended the stairs in silence, Adrian moving with surprising stealth for such a powerful man. At the door to Emma's room, I hesitated. Let me go in alone, I whispered. If she wakes up, I don't want her frightened by seeing you there. Adrian nodded, his expression unreadable in the dim hallway light. I slipped into Emma's room, guided by the soft glow of the nightlight. She was sleeping peacefully, one arm flung above her head, the other clutching her beloved rabbit. Carefully, I tried to ease it from her grasp, but she stirred, murmuring in her sleep. Shh. It's okay, baby, I whispered, stroking her hair until she settled again. With gentle persistence, I managed to extract the toy without waking her. I stood for a moment, looking down at my daughter's innocent face, wondering how we'd ended up here, in this mansion, entangled in a dangerous man's world. When I returned to the hallway, Adrian was waiting with barely concealed impatience, his eyes fixed on the well-worn rabbit in my hands. My office, he said quietly, leading the way back downstairs. Once inside the study, Adrian closed the door and held out his hand. May I? Reluctantly, I handed over the stuffed animal. It looked small and shabby in his large hands, a toy that had been loved almost to pieces, with one ear reattached after Emma had accidentally ripped it during a tantrum. Adrian turned it over, examining the rabbit from every angle. His fingers probed the seams, the stuffing, the embroidered eyes. Then he paused, his expression changing subtly as he felt something along the rabbit's spine. "Do you have scissors?" I asked, guessing his intention. He opened a desk drawer and withdrew a silver letter opener. "This will do." With surgical precision, he made a small incision along the rabbit's back seam, careful not to damage the fabric more than necessary. I watched as he reached into the stuffing and extracted something small and flat. A black USB drive, no larger than my thumb. "Son of a bitch," Adrian murmured, holding it up to the light. He hid it in a child's toy. A wave of nausea washed over me. He used our daughter as a hiding place for his stolen files. "He knew you'd come looking for them. He knew I wouldn't harm a child," Adrian said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Even I have lines I won't cross." I sank into the nearest chair, suddenly exhausted. "So now you have what you want. Does that mean we can go home?" Adrian plugged the drive into his laptop, his eyes scanning the screen as files populated the display. "It's not that simple, Lily." "Why not?" "You have your files back. We've done nothing wrong." He looked up from the computer, his expression grave. "David is still out there. He knows I have you, and he knows I've likely found the drive by now. That makes you and Emma witnesses, loose ends he'll want to tie up." "But we don't know anything," I protested. "I didn't even know the drive existed until 5 minutes ago." "David doesn't know that," Adrian pointed out. "And men like him, desperate, cornered men, they don't take chances." He closed the laptop and came to kneel before my chair, taking my cold hands in his warm ones. "I promised you protection, Lily. I intend to keep that promise." His proximity was unnerving. Up close, I could see flecks of silver in his gray eyes, smell the subtle cologne that clung to his skin. There was something intoxicating about him. This dangerous man who spoke of protection with such conviction. "For how long?" I whispered. "Until David is no longer a threat." His thumbs traced small circles on the backs of my hands, the gesture oddly soothing. "Until I know you and Emma are safe." "And then what? We just go back to our lives like none of this happened?" Adrian's gaze intensified. "Would that be so terrible? Returning to your cramped apartment, working double shifts, struggling to make ends meet?" His words stung with their accuracy. "It's our life," I said defensively. "Maybe it's not perfect, but it's ours." "It could be better," he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear him. "You deserve better, Lily. Both of you do." I pulled my hands away, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "I should check on Emma." Adrian stood, allowing me my retreat. "Of course. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss more permanent arrangements for your safety." As I reached the door, his voice stopped me. "Lily." I turned to find him watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Thank you for trusting me with the rabbit. I know what it means to Emma." "I didn't have much choice," I replied honestly. His smile was faint, but genuine. "We always have choices, remember? You chose to help me rather than fight. That means something." I left without responding, my thoughts too jumbled to form a coherent reply. The hallways of Blackwood Estate seemed endless as I made my way back to our suite, my mind replaying every interaction with Adrian since that fateful moment in the cafe. There was something about him, something beyond the danger and power he exuded, that drew me in despite my better judgment. Emma was still sleeping peacefully when I checked on her, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding around her. I tucked the blanket more securely around her shoulders before retreating to my own room. The bed was ridiculously comfortable, the sheets softer than any I'd ever felt. Exhaustion crashed over me as soon as my head hit the pillow, but sleep remained elusive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Adrian's face, felt his hands holding mine, heard his voice promising protection. I must have drifted off eventually, because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through a gap in the curtains. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back. The cafe, David's appearance, Adrian's revelation. The bedside clock showed it was just past 8. I sat up, listening for sounds of Emma, but the suite was quiet. Panic flared instantly. I threw back the covers and rushed to her room, only to find her bed empty, the sheets neatly made. "Emma?" I called, my voice rising with fear as I checked the bathroom, the closet, everywhere a small girl might hide. I was about to rush downstairs when I heard it. The sound of children's laughter floating up from somewhere below. Emma's laugh, unmistakable to my mother's ear. Following the sound, I made my way downstairs, still in the silk pajamas I'd found laid out for me the night before. The laughter led me to a sunlit kitchen at the back of the house, where I found a scene so domestic it stopped me in my tracks. Emma sat at a massive island counter, giggling as Mrs. Fairchild showed her how to flip pancakes with an expert flick of her wrist. And beside them, looking strangely at home in casual clothes, dark jeans and a gray cashmere sweater that highlighted his eyes, stood Adrian, mixing batter in a large bowl. "Mommy!" Emma exclaimed when she spotted me. "Look, I'm making pancakes. And Mr. Adrian says we can put anything we want in them." I put chocolate chips in mine. Adrian looked up, and something warm flickered in his eyes as they traveled from my tousled hair to my bare feet. "Good morning, Lily. I hope you don't mind that we let you sleep." Emma was up early and she was hungry. No, that's fine," I managed, suddenly conscious of my state of undress. The silk pajamas, while modest, felt far too intimate for this situation. "Coffee?" Mrs. Fairchild offered, already pouring a cup without waiting for my response. I accepted it gratefully, inhaling the rich aroma. "Thank you." "Sit down, Mommy. Try my pancake." Emma pushed a plate toward me, her face alight with pride. As I slipped onto a stool beside my daughter, Adrian placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've made quite a chef's assistant, Emma. Perhaps you could help Mrs. Fairchild set the dining room table while your mother enjoys her coffee." Emma nodded eagerly, hopping down to follow the housekeeper, who winked at me as they left the kitchen together. Alone with Adrian, I sipped my coffee, trying to ignore the tension that seemed to crackle between us. "She seems happy," I said finally. "Children are resilient," Adrian replied, leaning against the counter opposite me, and easily distracted by chocolate chip pancakes. Despite everything, I found myself smiling. A universal truth. Adrian's expression softened. "She's a remarkable child, Lily. You've done well with her, despite the challenges. She's all I have," I said simply. "Perhaps not anymore," Adrian said quietly, his eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. Before I could ask what he meant, the kitchen door swung open, and Marco entered. His usual stoic expression was replaced with something more urgent. "Boss, we have a situation," he said in a low voice. "The surveillance team picked up movement at Miss Carter's apartment building. Someone broke in last night." My coffee cup clattered against the counter as I set it down too quickly. "What? Was anyone hurt?" "My neighbors, no casualties," Marco assured me. "The place was tossed, but no one was harmed. They were clearly looking for something." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Or someone." He turned to me. "Do you see now why I insisted you stay here?" If you and Emma had been home, the thought sent ice through my veins. Emma, my sweet, innocent daughter, caught in the middle of whatever dangerous game David was playing. "I need to call work," I said, trying to focus on practical matters rather than the fear threatening to overwhelm me. "They'll be expecting me for my shift tonight." "Already handled," Adrian replied. "Family emergency, remember? You've been granted a leave of absence." I bristled at his presumption. "You can't just rearrange my life without consulting me. I need that job, Adrian. The bills don't stop just because we're hiding out in your mansion." Something flashed in his eyes, surprise perhaps at my defiance. Then his lips curved into a small smile. "Fiery, even in the face of danger. I admire that." Marco cleared his throat discreetly. "There's more, boss. We found traces of blood in the apartment. Not much, but enough to suggest a struggle." My blood ran cold. "David?" "Unknown," Marco replied. "The team collected samples for analysis." Adrian straightened, all traces of softness vanishing from his expression. "Double the security detail around the perimeter. No one enters or leaves without my direct authorization, and have someone fetch the items from Ms. Carter's apartment, clothes, personal effects, anything she and Emma might need for an extended stay." "Extended stay?" I echoed. How long are you planning to keep us here? As long as necessary to ensure your safety, Adrian said firmly. Marco, give us the room. Once we were alone again, Adrian moved closer, his proximity making the spacious kitchen feel suddenly smaller. I understand your frustration, Lily. You value your independence, your ability to provide for Emma on your own terms, but right now, independence is a luxury you cannot afford. So I'm supposed to just sit here, letting you make decisions for us, while some unknown threat looms over my daughter's head? I crossed my arms. I need to be doing something, Adrian. I can't just be a passive participant in my own life. He studied me for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. Very well. Would you like to see what was on the drive? His offer surprised me. You'd show me? Knowledge is power, Lily, and you deserve to know exactly what David has dragged you into. He gestured toward the door. After breakfast, Emma should enjoy her pancakes without adult concerns intruding. Breakfast was a surreal affair. Emma chattered happily about the enormous house and all the rooms she wanted to explore. Mrs. Fairchild indulged her with stories about the estate's history, while Adrian watched my daughter with an expression I couldn't quite decipher, something between tenderness and regret. Mr. Adrian, do you have horses? Emma asked, syrup dotting her chin. Mrs. F. says there used to be stables here. Not anymore, Adrian replied gently, but there's a riding center not far from here. Perhaps one day, if your mother agrees, we could visit. Emma turned to me with pleading eyes. Can we, Mommy? Please? I've never seen a real horse up close before. I hesitated, caught between my daughter's excitement and the reality of our situation. We'll see, sweetheart. There's a lot happening right now. Speaking of which, Adrian interjected smoothly, Mrs. Fairchild has offered to show Emma the greenhouse this morning. There's a koi pond that I think a certain 5-year-old might enjoy. Emma's eyes widened. Fish? Can I feed them? Mrs. Fairchild nodded, her stern features softening. I have special fish food just for that purpose. And perhaps afterward we could bake cookies. With Emma happily distracted, Adrian led me to his study once more. The laptop was still on his desk, the black USB drive connected. He gestured for me to sit beside him as he pulled up a series of files. These are financial records, he explained, scrolling through columns of numbers and names. Client lists, transaction histories, offshore account details, essentially a roadmap to every aspect of my business operations. I scanned the screen, recognizing some prominent names among the lists. This is a lot more extensive than I imagined. My family's interests are diverse, Adrian said, a hint of pride in his voice. Shipping, real estate, entertainment, private security, some legitimate, others less so. And David had access to all of this? Adrian nodded grimly. He was my chief financial officer. I trusted him. His jaw tightened. A mistake I won't repeat. He clicked through to another folder, this one containing what appeared to be personal information. Addresses, family members, photographs. This is what makes the drive particularly dangerous. Not just business records, but details about the people in my organization, their families, their vulnerabilities. The implications hit me like a physical blow. If this fell into the wrong hands, people would die, Adrian finished flatly. Not just those directly involved in illegal activities, but innocent family members, spouses, children. His eyes met mine. Like Emma, I felt sick. Why would David do this? What could he possibly gain by stealing this information? Adrian leaned back in his chair, his expression darkening. Initially, leverage, protection against retribution for his embezzlement. But now, he shook his head. Now I believe he's trying to sell it to the highest bidder. My competitors would pay millions for this data. And that's why he came back, I whispered. He needs the drive to complete the sale. Exactly. Adrian closed the laptop. The question is, who is he working with? David doesn't have the connections or the courage to approach my rivals directly. A thought occurred to me. In the cafe when David came in, you had him taken away by your man. What happened to him? Adrian's expression revealed nothing. He escaped. Marco underestimated his desperation. I wasn't sure if I believed him, but I decided not to press the issue. So what now? We just wait for him to make another move? Now, Adrian said, rising from his chair. We prepare. David knows the drive is here. He'll come for it, or send someone else to do his dirty work. And Emma and I are caught in the middle, I said bitterly. Adrian moved to stand before me, his tall frame blocking the light from the window. I won't let anything happen to either of you, Lily. You have my word. The word of a criminal, I couldn't help saying. Instead of anger, his response was a sad smile. Yes, but a criminal with principles at least. He offered his hand to help me up. Come, there's something I want to show you. He led me through a different part of the house, down a corridor I hadn't seen before. We stopped at a heavy wooden door, which he unlocked with a key from his pocket. If something happens, he said seriously, if you ever feel unsafe or need to protect Emma, come here. He pushed the door open to reveal what could only be described as an armory. Walls lined with guns of various sizes, from handguns to what looked like military-grade rifles. I took an involuntary step back. I don't know how to use any of these. Then it's time you learned. Adrian selected a small handgun from a cabinet. This is a Glock 19. Simple, reliable, easy to handle even for beginners. I don't want to learn how to shoot people, Adrian. His expression hardened. And I don't want you to need to. But the world doesn't care what either of us wants, Lily. The question is whether you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect your daughter. Put that way, I had no argument. He was right. I would do anything to keep Emma safe. Reluctantly, I held out my hand. Good, he said, his voice softening as he placed the weapon in my palm. We'll start with the basics: stance, grip, safety. You don't have to become an expert marksman overnight, just competent enough to defend yourself if necessary. For the next hour, Adrian patiently taught me how to handle the gun. How to check if it was loaded, how to disengage the safety, how to aim and fire. We didn't actually shoot. There was no firing range in the house. But he promised we would practice with live ammunition soon. By the time we finished, I felt both empowered and terrified. The weight of the gun, even unloaded, was a tangible reminder of the danger we were in. You're a natural, Adrian commented as he returned the weapon to its cabinet. Good instincts. Let's hope I never have to use them, I replied, flexing my fingers to relieve the tension. As we made our way back toward the main part of the house, Adrian's phone rang. His expression darkened as he answered it, listening intently to whoever was on the other end. When? He asked sharply. And you're certain it was him? No, keep your distance. Surveillance only. I want to know where he goes, who he meets. He hung up without saying goodbye. David? I guessed. Adrian nodded, his jaw tight. He was spotted at a motel on the outskirts of town. Not alone. Who was with him? Unknown associate, male, approximately 50 years old. Adrian's eyes were cold. My men are following them, keeping their distance for now. A shiver ran through me. He's not giving up, is he? No. Adrian placed a hand at the small of my back, guiding me forward. But neither am I. We found Emma in the kitchen with Mrs. Fairchild, both of them dusted with flour as they rolled out cookie dough. My daughter's laughter, so carefree and innocent, made my heart ache. How could I have let her become entangled in this dangerous web? Mommy, Mrs. F is teaching me to make chocolate chip cookies from scratch, Emma exclaimed, holding up flour-covered hands. And I got to feed the fish, and they came right up to eat from my fingers. I forced a smile. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Adrian leaned close to my ear, his breath warm against my skin. This is what we're fighting to protect, Lily. Remember that. The rest of the day passed in a strange mix of domestic tranquility and underlying tension. Emma explored the mansion with the enthusiasm only a child could muster, delighting in each new discovery. I followed her, trying to maintain an appearance of calm, even as my mind raced with fears and uncertainties. Adrian was never far away, watching us with those intense gray eyes. Sometimes I would turn and catch him looking at Emma with an expression of genuine fondness that seemed at odds with the dangerous man I knew him to be. Other times, his gaze would find mine, and something electric would pass between us. Something I wasn't ready to acknowledge, let alone understand. As evening fell, We gathered in a cozy sitting room where Mrs. Fairchild had prepared a simple dinner. Emma, exhausted from her day of exploration, fell asleep on the sofa before dessert was served. I should take her up to bed, I said, moving to lift my daughter. Allow me, Adrian offered, gathering Emma into his arms with surprising gentleness. Her head lolled against his shoulder, one small hand curling instinctively into the fabric of his shirt. I followed him upstairs, watching as he laid Emma carefully on her bed. He stepped back, allowing me space to tuck her in and kiss her goodnight. She trusts so easily, Adrian observed quietly as we left the room, leaving the door slightly ajar. It's a beautiful thing, childhood innocence. And fragile, I added. Too easily broken. He turned to me in the hallway, his expression serious. I won't let that happen to her, Lily, or to you. In the dim light of the hallway, Adrian's promise hung between us, weighted with implications I wasn't ready to face. His proximity was intoxicating. The subtle scent of his cologne, the warmth radiating from his body, the intensity in his storm-gray eyes. You should get some rest, he said finally, taking a step back. Tomorrow may be difficult. What happens tomorrow? I asked, suddenly apprehensive. We draw David out, Adrian replied. End this game once and for all. How? A shadow crossed his face. The less you know, the better. For your safety and Emma's. I'm tired of being kept in the dark, Adrian, I said firmly. This involves me, involves my daughter. I deserve to know the plan. He studied me for a long moment, as though weighing my resolve. Very well, he conceded. But not here. Come with me. We returned to his study, where a fire had been lit against the evening chill. Adrian poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handing one to me before gesturing toward the leather chairs by the hearth. David believes the drive is still in your possession, he began, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. He doesn't know we've found it, which gives us an advantage. Tomorrow, we'll let it be known that you're staying at a hotel in the city, under my protection, but more accessible than this estate. You're using me as bait, I realized, my stomach tightening with fear. In a controlled environment, Adrian clarified. You'll be surrounded by my most trusted men. Emma will remain here with Mrs. Fairchild, completely safe. And when David takes the bait, Adrian's expression hardened. We capture him and whoever he's working with. Find out who he's been dealing with, who he's shared information with. And then... He left the sentence unfinished, but his meaning was clear. I stared into the fire, conflicted. Part of me wanted David to pay for the danger he'd put Emma in, for the years of struggle he'd left us to endure alone. But another part, the part that remembered the kind, charming man I'd fallen in love with, recoiled at the thought of what Adrian might do to him. Will you kill him? I asked quietly. Adrian didn't flinch at the directness of my question. Would that bother you? After everything he's done? I don't know, I admitted. He's Emma's father, despite everything. She might want to know him someday, when she's older. A father who used his daughter as a pawn, Adrian reminded me, his voice tight with barely contained anger. Who hid stolen data in her toy, knowing it would put her in danger? I know. My voice broke on the words. God, I know what he did was unforgivable. But killing him won't undo it. Adrian set his glass down and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. What would you have me do, Lily? Let him go? Let him continue to be a threat to you and Emma? To my entire organization? I had no answer for him. The reality of the situation, of Adrian's world, was beginning to sink in. There were no easy solutions, no clean resolutions that wouldn't leave blood on someone's hands. I won't lie to you, Adrian continued, his voice gentler. David has crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. In my world, that demands consequences. Your world, I echoed. Not mine. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Vulnerability, perhaps, or regret. No, not yours. Though I find myself wishing it could be in some ways. The admission hung between us, charged with meaning. I looked away, unwilling to confront the emotions his words stirred within me. It's late, I said finally, rising from my chair. I should check on Emma. Adrian stood as well, towering over me in the firelight. Of course. But Lily... He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek with unexpected tenderness. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that my priority is keeping you and Emma safe, no matter the cost. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with fears and uncertainties. Around 3 a.m, I gave up trying and slipped from my room to check on Emma. She was sleeping peacefully, clutching her newly repaired rabbit. Adrian had returned it earlier, the seam carefully stitched closed, though the USB drive was no longer hidden inside. Restless, I wandered downstairs, drawn to the soft glow emanating from beneath the study door. I hesitated before knocking quietly. "Come in," Adrian called, his voice revealing no surprise at a visitor at this late hour. He was seated behind his desk, papers spread before him, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked tired but alert, as though sleep was a luxury he rarely indulged in. "Trouble sleeping?" he asked, setting aside the document he'd been reading. "Too much on my mind," I admitted, hovering in the doorway. "Join me," he offered, gesturing to a chair. "I find paperwork to be an excellent cure for insomnia." I sat, drawing my knees up to my chest, suddenly aware that I was wearing only the silk pajamas provided by Mrs. Fairchild. "What are you working on?" "Contingency plans," Adrian replied, "ensuring all variables are accounted for." "For tomorrow." He nodded, his expression grave. "For tomorrow, and for what comes after." "And what does come after, Adrian?" I asked quietly. "Assuming everything goes according to plan and David is dealt with. What happens to Emma and me?" Adrian leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving mine. "What would you like to happen, Lily?" The question caught me off guard. For so long, my life had been about survival, making rent, keeping food on the table, ensuring Emma had what she needed. I hadn't allowed myself to want more, to dream of something better. "I don't know," I admitted. "A safe home for Emma, stability, not having to work 3 jobs just to stay afloat." I paused, a lump forming in my throat. "Not being alone all the time." Adrian's expression softened. "You could have all of that, you know, and more." "How?" He stood, moving around the desk to kneel before my chair, echoing his position from the night before. "Stay," he said simply. "Stay here with me." My heart stuttered in my chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that in the short time I've known you, Lily Carter, you've awakened something in me I thought was long dead." His hands found mine, warm and strong. "I'm saying that watching you with Emma, your strength, your devotion, your fierce protection, has made me want things I never believed I deserved." "Adrian," I breathed, uncertain how to respond to his unexpected declaration. "I know what I am," he continued, his grip tightening slightly. "I have no illusions about the life I've led, the choices I've made. But with you," he hesitated, vulnerability flashing in his eyes. "With you, I see the possibility of something different, something better." "You barely know me," I protested weakly. A small smile touched his lips. "I know enough. I know you're brave and resilient. I know you love your daughter more than life itself. I know you face each day with a strength that humbles me, despite the cards life has dealt you." His thumbs traced circles on my palms. "The rest, we can learn together. If you'll give me that chance." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. This dangerous, powerful man was offering me a future, a safe haven for Emma and me, and something more. Something I hadn't dared hope for since David's betrayal had shattered my trust. "What about your world?" I asked softly. "The danger, the violence?" "I can't expose Emma to that. I would keep that separate," Adrian promised. "And in time, perhaps there could be changes." Legitimate enterprises expanded. Others phased out. His expression turned earnest. "I'm not asking you to accept all of me at once, Lily. Just to give me the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust." I looked into his eyes, searching for deception, but finding only sincerity. "I don't know if I can trust anyone again," I whispered. "David destroyed that part of me." Adrian lifted one hand to cup my cheek. "Then let me help you rebuild it, piece by piece, however long it takes." Before I could respond, a soft knock at the door interrupted us. Marco stood in the doorway, his expression tense. "Boss, we have a situation. David's on the move, and he's not alone." Adrian stood immediately, his demeanor shifting from tender to commanding in an instant. "How many?" "3 vehicles. Heading this way." Marco's eyes flicked to me briefly. "They're armed." Cold fear washed over me. "Emma is safe," Adrian assured me, his voice steady. "Mrs. Fairchild has protocols for situations like this. She'll have taken her to the panic room by now." "I need to be with her," I insisted, already moving toward the door. Adrian caught my arm gently. "Go. Marco will take you to her. I need to coordinate our defense." Marco led me through a series of hallways I hadn't seen before, eventually stopping at what appeared to be a blank wall. He pressed a hidden panel, and a section of the wall slid back to reveal a reinforced door. "Mrs. F is inside with the little one," he said, entering a code on a keypad. "You'll be safe here until the boss handles this." The door opened to reveal a small but well-appointed room, more like a comfortable apartment than the bunker I'd expected. Emma was sitting on a couch with Mrs. Fairchild, watching a cartoon on a large television screen as though nothing was amiss. "Mommy," she exclaimed when she saw me. "Mrs. F says we're having a sleepover in the special room. Isn't it cool?" I forced a smile, grateful that she was unaware of the danger. "Very cool, sweetheart," Mrs. Fairchild gave me a reassuring nod. "The room is fully stocked with food, water, and everything else we might need. The walls are reinforced. No one can get in without the proper codes." Marco stepped back into the hallway. "Lock it behind me. Don't open for anyone but the boss or me. Clear?" I nodded, fighting to keep my composure for Emma's sake. Once the door was secured, I joined my daughter on the couch, pulling her close as my mind raced with worry for Adrian. Hours passed with no word from outside. Mrs. Fairchild kept Emma entertained with games and stories, while I paced the confines of our shelter, jumping at every sound. The panic room had no windows, no way to know what was happening beyond its walls. It was nearly dawn when the security panel by the door beeped, indicating someone was entering the access code. I positioned myself between Emma and the entrance, tensed for whatever might come through. The door swung open to reveal Adrian, his white shirt spattered with blood, a bruise darkening along his jawline. He looked exhausted, but triumphant. "It's over," he said simply. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by concern at his appearance. "You're hurt." "Nothing serious." He dismissed my worry with a slight shake of his head. "David and his associates have been dealt with. They won't threaten you or Emma again." I glanced at Emma, who had fallen asleep on the couch, then back to Adrian. "Is he dead?" "No." Adrian's expression was unreadable. "I remembered what you said, about him being Emma's father. He's alive, but he won't be free to cause more trouble. I have connections who can ensure he serves a very long sentence for his crimes." The fact that he had spared David, despite everything, told me more about Adrian's character than any words could have. He had listened to me, respected my concerns about Emma's future relationship with her father, even in the middle of a life-or-death situation. "Thank you," I said softly. Adrian stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "I meant what I said earlier, Lily. About wanting you to stay, both of you." In that moment, looking at this complex, dangerous man who had risked his life to protect us, who had shown such tenderness toward my daughter, who had offered me a future I hadn't dared dream of, I made my decision. "We'll stay," I whispered. "For now. One day at a time." The smile that transformed his face was like the sun breaking through storm clouds. He reached for me, drawing me into his arms with a gentleness that belied his strength. "One day at a time," he agreed, pressing his lips to my forehead. "That's all I ask." 6 months later, Emma ran through the gardens of Blackwood Estate, chasing butterflies in the summer sunshine. Her laughter echoed across the grounds, carefree and joyous. From the terrace, I watched her, marveling at how quickly she had adapted to our new life. "She's thriving here," Adrian said, joining me with 2 glasses of lemonade. "Just like her mother." I accepted the drink with a smile. "It hasn't been easy. The best things rarely are." He slipped an arm around my waist, drawing me against his side. "Any regrets?" I considered the question seriously. The transition had been challenging, adapting to Adrian's world, establishing boundaries, learning to trust again. There had been difficult conversations about his business, compromises on both sides, moments when I'd questioned my decision. But there had also been unexpected joys. Watching Emma bloom in the stability and security Adrian provided, rediscovering parts of myself long buried under the weight of survival, and falling, slowly but inexorably, for the complex man beside me. "No regrets," I said finally, leaning into his embrace. "Just gratitude for that day in the cafe when I asked, 'Can I sit here?'" Adrian's laugh rumbled through his chest. "Best question anyone's ever asked me." He pressed a kiss to my temple, and my answer stands. "You can stay with me for as long as you want." As Emma ran toward us, her face alight with happiness, I knew that my impulsive decision that snowy day had led us exactly where we were meant to be, not just surviving, but truly living, one day at a time, in the protective embrace of a man who had once seemed my greatest threat, but had become my greatest blessing, forever, I whispered, turning my face up to his. I think forever sounds about right.